First of all, thank you, Ambassador Huckabee. It's great seeing you again. And it's always a pleasure. And of course, in this country, really, you need no introduction. All over the news, since you came in running, you came in really right into the frying pan, right into the,
That's a good way to put it, Harry. It certainly has been all of that and more.
Knowing President Trump, as you do, when do you think his patience is going to, run out with the talks? We just had talks, I think it was yesterday in Oman, that were postponed. Do you think it'll last another half a year? Or do you think it'll, what's your opinion?
I can't imagine that the president would let those talks just continue indefinitely. If it becomes apparent that the Iranians have no serious intent on dismantling their nuclear program, the president's made it clear they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And they can either, as he said last week, I'll quote him, they can either blow it up nicely or they can blow it up viciously. It's our understanding as a United States that Iran's target is not limited to Israel, because the Iranians have never said, you know what, we really don't want to go after America anymore. They're not our enemy. They're infidels, but they're okay. We'll leave them alone. They've never said that. So when people for 46 years have told you they're going to hopefully one day kill you, you'd be smart to pay attention to them and take them at their word.
What's your personal vision for your ambassadorship here for the next 4 years?
Obviously, the hostages all come home, every one of them. To see Hamas completely annihilated. Right. And the victims were targeted to be civilians. They were targeted to be vulnerable people, elderly people, pregnant women, babies. When you target people like that for the actions that they carried out, those are not acts of war. Those are acts of criminal, uncivilized, savage behavior that can only be met with a desire to say, this can never be. If you put it in biblical terms, it's like going after the Amalekites in the Old Testament.
Right.
And God says, don't let any of it last. It's all got to go.
Excellent. That's a good way to think of it. Real evil personified. Yeah. Okay, good. Yes, definitely. That's something that that needs to happen. Hopefully it'll take less than 4 years.
I hope so.
How does the Trump plan to rebuild Gaza, how does that look? How do you think, practically speaking, that will come about? Do you think it'll mean even, boots on the ground type of thing, like to that point, or how do you see it happening?
I've not heard the president indicate that the U.S. would put boots on the ground in terms of military action. I don't think we know yet. A lot of it depends on who wants to have a piece of it, who wants to be a part of a complete rebuilding, restructuring, not just the physical buildings and infrastructure, but he wants to be a part of building a different culture there, something that has economic possibility and that would be a future for people who live there. I think there will also be a clear opportunity for people who want to leave, who decide they don't want to continue to live in a place that has so many horrible memories, thanks to Hamas, that they will be given an exit and an opportunity to go and relocate. It won't be forced, but they certainly will be given an opportunity, and I would kind of anticipate that quite a few of them would take it.
What do you think happened there with, I mean, it was supposed to be like a Riviera, like it could have been a Singapore.
Yeah.
And, it was just...
An incredible tragedy. I've used the term, it could have been Singapore, they turned it into Haiti.
Right.
And the tragedy was that billions and billions of dollars were poured into Gaza.
Yes.
And Hamas built a tunnel system bigger than the London Underground. And it was not done to move people from place to place efficiently. It was done to hide weaponry and rockets and military hardware while their people were on the verge of starvation and their lives were not being helped. It was not put toward education, toward medical care, toward anything other than let's build rockets and bombs and let's kill Jews. And that's been their stated goal. And tragically, they carried it out. So
Horrible.
they can never be looked at again as anything other than the monsters and savages they are.
You know, we have a new Pope in the Vatican, and Pope Leo, I think it's the 14th. As we know, Pope Francis, at the end of his life, was very outspoken critic, very critical of Israel's war in Gaza, and to the surprise of many, myself included. I mean, I'm doing a project there with the Vatican Museum, and he really turned, I think, on Israel. In your role as ambassador, would you be willing to engage with the Pope on behalf of Israel and U.S. policy to back Israel in its war?
I would certainly want to accommodate anything I could to communicate that if we want to be unhappy with what's happened in Gaza, be unhappy with Hamas. They're the ones who created it. They're the ones who have prolonged it. They're the ones who really are absolutely responsible for the deaths of so many civilians. The Israelis have gone out of their way to say, get out of this area. This is going to be targeted militarily.
Right.
And they were told, get away from here. What did Hamas do? They amassed people to that target because they don't care if civilians are killed.
Unbelievable.
They don't care.
Insane.
And it's the same thing. They didn't care that they were massacring Jewish people on October the 7th. Equally a tragic consequence, they don't care if their own people get killed. Because to them, it's the cost of doing business.
Right, yes. And this is what we've been trying to get. I've been in touch with the ambassador, to the Israeli ambassador to the Holy See, and he was trying to get that point across, that very point. But somehow there's a disconnect there for maybe theological reasons, I'm not sure. The New York Times picked the one quote that you had many very good quotes about what's been happening, that Trump didn't shove Israel under the bus with all these lately the decisions, etc. he's made, which seem on the surface contrary to Israel's interests. But the one quote that the New York Times was picked out was, Huckabee says that the U.S. doesn't need Israel's permission to do, instead of all the other quotes.
Well, they didn't even finish the statement because they said, and Israel doesn't need our permission.
Right.
That was the whole point, that we have two sovereign nations. The United States of America doesn't have to play Mother May I.
Right.
But it's not just with Israel. We don't have to ask the UK or Canada or France or any of our allies. We've got a lot of allies around the world. It's not necessary. There's nothing in our law that requires us to ask permission to act in our own best interest. Right. I quickly said in the same sentence, and the Times irresponsibly and recklessly left it out, that
good to hear.
Israel doesn't have to ask our permission. They're a sovereign nation. Israel doesn't have to ask the United States, hey, can we defend ourselves?
Right.
Can we go against our enemies? That's not a requirement. There is nothing in our long-standing, very thick relationship that would require the Israelis to get our permission. Right. That's exactly what I said. I said it as clearly as it could be said, but the New York Times, which I called the New York Slimes, once again chose to distort and misrepresent a story. I would say this, that when you tell a half-truth as if it is the full truth, it becomes an untruth. That's what they did.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Mr. Ambassador. I wanted to get your views about the idea of Israeli sovereignty over Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. Should it remain that way? Biblically, obviously, it says that Scripture says belongs to the Jews, King David, etc. What's your view?
I think what's been the practice, Israel has made accessibility something that they protect for everyone, whether a person is Jewish, Muslim, or Christian. And they're clearly holy sites for all of the three major religions, and then for others as well. When people are critical of Israel about their management of the property, I always say, as a Christian, I can go to any of the sites that I want to, and the Israelis protect me and grant me that right and access. Quite frankly, in the PA, there are places that I cannot easily or comfortably go. And it's very much in complete disregard to the Oslo Accords, which was to grant access everywhere.
And I wanted to thank you very much for your time, Mr.
Harry,
Nestor.
thank you. Great to visit with you again. It's been a long time. Hopefully it won't be this long the next time.